You say hey, I say ha.
Ha.
No, you meant to say hey. I said you say hey, and then I'll
Hey.
say ha.
Hey.
Ha. Ha.
Hey. That's okay. Let's just can we start? We just actually start the thing, right?
Hey guys, and welcome to Movie Mumbles, where the mumbles have movies and the movies have mumbles.
God damn it!
I'm with my boy Roy. Say hi, Roy.
Son of a bitch! You fucking. Why do you want to keep saying that? Like that doesn't. That's just the stupidest. The stupidest.
It is. I love it.
Okay. Hello, everybody.
Today,
Yeah.
this week we've been watching Inside Out, which was my pick. In the theme of animation, it is actually our final week on animation, which is kind of cool. So We've both gone away and watched Inside Out. If you want to go watch Inside Out,
Well, it's too late.
Go and do it before we watch the thingy and pause it and then do the things. You see, I'm good with this intro stuff. It's fluid. It's everyone knows what I'm talking about. You know,
Absolutely smooth. Okay.
Yeah, but there will be spoilers ahead. You have been warned.
Yep. So I guess you start since you're the one that. Like...
Yeah, I suppose I'm the one that hasn't actually seen this. It was my pick, and I haven't actually seen the film. So, straight off the bat, I fucking love this film.
Okay.
I cried like a baby. No, seriously, it was like the things that got me. Like, I'm gonna go straight to the end. Bing Bong's death. That was so sad. Because that's the bit of her childhood that she will never have ever again, and it's gone. He sacrificed for her well-being, and it's like, whoa, Riley as well. Like, the general voice acting in this is brilliant on all parts. Like, Amy Sadness and not Amy.
Amy Sadness.
No, it's not Amy. What's her name?
Amy
Riley. God damn it! Why did I say Amy? That's not even close to Riley.
Amy Poehler's like Joy. Maybe that might be why. You thought that?
No, I didn't know that.
Okay, but then you just...
Yeah, I don't know who any of the voice actors are, which is stupid. Maybe you could list them out, because I'm starting with the voice acting. I thought the voice acting was really good. The contrast between, like, anger and, like, the sadness and joy, like, they managed to do something which I've always found is really difficult when I'm voice acting, and that's getting across pure raw emotions just by voice acting.
That is true. I think all the emotions do a very good job. They casted the perfect people to do each emotion. I think they really embodied it. So yeah, I guess I'll do the discussion listing people. Amy Poehler, once as I said again, is Joy. She's like Parks and Rec, famous for that kind of stuff. Phyllis Smith, you might have seen her on the American Office. She plays Sadness. Louis Black, famous comedian, and also very appropriate as Zenger if you've seen his stand-up. And Bill Hader from SNL and other stuff is Fear, and Mindy Kaling from the Mindy Project is Disgust. So yeah, they
from the Mindy Project. I thought I recognized her voice.
Yeah.
That's weird. I didn't actually know that the actress's name was Mindy. That's stupid. I hate that show, and never mind.
Okay.
Let's keep going.
That's a different rant for another day. Well, let me just right off the bat, let's talk a bit about Pixar, because this is a Pixar movie, and this film was released at an interesting time for Pixar, because everyone knew, the most... since Toy Story 3, they've generally had a stream of, amazing films. Cars, then amazing film, and then Cars 2 came out, and that kind of, it's like a roller coaster. They had their rising point, and then everything they had a slight downfall. So Cars 2 wasn't a good film.
Monsters University,
they had a string of films that weren't bad per se, but they weren't up to Pixar's own level of greatness. And
yeah, I would even say that about the first Cars. It's not a bad film. I can sit down and I can watch it, but it's definitely not their best. It's probably I would say that, and maybe Bug's Life is probably one of their underrated, not as good films of the early years.
But yeah, as I was saying, so generally from 2011 to around 2014, their films weren't really gripping people as they used to be. So when Inside Out came...
Brave, that's another one.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like
The Good Dinosaur.
well, that anyway. So like around Inside Out, people were kind of curious. Okay, so people like the concept. Like going into it, people were like, okay, this is an interesting concept. This is like something Pixar would have come up with, like around the Toy Story good era. But is the execution? Is it going to be a good film? Because people were like saying the same stuff about Brave, and that one wasn't as well liked. So there were some people who were very into the film, but there was also some people who were very hesitant. Just seeing, okay, how good is this going to be? And it turns out Pixar really struck it out of the park. I would personally say this is up there with some of their best films that they've created. Like, for me, it's up there with, like, Toy Story 3 and Finding Nemo for some of my personal favorite. And it's a very good film. It is definitely, like, a return to form for Pixar. Now, I'm not sure how well they're going to keep it out there. Like, Finding Dory was good, but as you said, The Good Dinosaur, ironically enough, wasn't that amazing.
It was good. Finding Dory was good, but I kind of... I watched it the first time and I enjoyed it. And then the second time I was like, kind of... Do we need this? Like, do we need that film? And it does seem to be a trend with the sequels. And as much as I hate saying this because of Toy Story... But it does seem to... Like, that's probably the exception, actually. It does seem to see, like, with the sequels that they don't live up to what the original was.
Oh, sorry. I'm just saying, you said before that you preferred Dory to Nemo at first.
I did. That was my first reaction. But, like, I've watched it again since, and I've kind of realised that Nemo... It's pretty much the same film, and, like, Nemo just hits it slightly better, I think.
Okay.
But anyway.
Well, anyway, I still think, like, Finding Dory's a good... Like, I actually think it's one of their better, newer films. We're still not sure how well they're going to keep this stride up. Again, Toy Story 4 and Coco. I mean, Coco, I don't know shit about, so I'm not sure how that will be. But Toy Story 4, I'm not looking forward to at all. I've expressed my opinions before how much I'm against the idea of Toy Story.
Kill Woody.
Yeah, okay. But let's get it more on topic. But yeah, Inside Out was like the film that everyone agreed, for the most part, was amazing Pixar film. So I'm interested to see what you liked about it. What gripped you to it?
Well, I liked pretty much all of it. I liked the whole concept of it. I liked the fact that you saw the side of the humans as well. It wasn't just from the guys inside her brain. You also saw the people in the mum and the dad and all the other characters right at the end. I thought that was brilliant.
That last scene was pretty funny. That was like...
Especially with like the teenage boy where they were just going mental. There's a girl! I was just pissing myself.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just that. There was an emotional journey, and it was... it's about a child losing her childhood and growing up. And it dealt with that concept in such a great way, because you start off with everyone. Like, whenever you're a kid, you always learn that sadness is a bad emotion. You don't need to be sad, just be happy, have fun, that sort of thing. And for the most part, you do. If you've had a good childhood, you grow up, you're pretty happy, you're pretty affluent. Well, that's in the first world. Now... But then, as you get into the teenage years, you start to mature. You start to lose things that make you this child, or things might change around you. And just a simple thing like moving home, like that can throw kids way off balance. And I think that they hit all of these points so well, and it made me reflect back on myself, on my own childhood, like similar sort of things that happened at the same time. And I was just like, holy crap, that's exactly what I was feeling like when I was about 12-ish. Like, everything was collapsing, and, like, my whole identity was bringing in on myself. Obviously, I didn't realise that when I was a kid then, but now, like, looking back and reflecting, like, it gives you this sort of approach. Like, half of my life ago, I was a completely different person, and I had a whole different sensibility, and the fact that they had the image at the end where now she's a different person, kind of. She's grown up, and... Like, they had the different parts that made Riley, and she was getting bigger and better because of it.
I do agree. Like, I think what I like about the film, one is how relatable, like, Riley is. Like, I mean, the whole film is. Like, the Pixar really understands what, like, a kid or a teenager at this point in their life, like, is going through for this stuff. And they just get, like, how humans... kind of do react to these situations, and the way they explain all of our little emotions and all of our quirks and all of our stuff with this world building is just amazing. The world building in this film is incredible. Like, every aspect of our subconscious and the way we work as humans is kind of explained in interesting and creative ways. We can delve into the specifics later, but I think a second aspect that you kind of touched on that I really love about this film is the importance of sadness. Like, not just the character of, like, her as an important character, but literally, like, how important it is to kind of embrace sadness sometimes. Because I think everyone's taught as a kid, okay, it's bad to be sad, you know, you shouldn't always be sad. And that is definitely, like, there is definitely truth to that, but there's also the sadness, just like every other emotion, is important because, and they explain that in the film, like, beautifully, like, perfectly. Like, the dynamic between joy and sadness is just, like, and it's handled very well. There's a growth and development with both of the characters, and yeah, it's very, very well done.
Yeah, no, it's definitely one of the most touching and feeling movies since, like, WALL-E or Up, that Pixar have done. In fact, I would probably those are my two favourites from Pixar. And as much as I love Toy Story, that's more nostalgia. But like Up and WALL-E, they're probably my all-time favourite Pixar films. And this, I would probably have to peg this right up there with those two, if not higher, maybe, because they take really cool themes and like, they do it in, like, different storytelling techniques as well. So it's like, it's a general real-life situation, and they take these emotions and they give them life. Every emotion has a life, and it just adds a whole new world of possibilities that was going on inside, like, Riley's head and stuff. And I just love that whole concept, the whole direction of it. It's not just the concept, though. It was really well produced and directed. I think it's Pete Docter who directed it. He's done a brilliant job of, like, fleshing out the story and getting the story from the right places. So he probably would have worked with the CGI. He would have worked probably on the scripts and stuff like that. And you can see that, like, one person's had this brilliant vision, and he's just let other people explore it and kind of guide and mold the overall story. And I just love the whole concept of it. I can't not say that. It's definitely my favourite film of the animation section that I've seen so far. And that includes Iron Giant, and that's one of my favourite films, so.
Interesting, yeah. So let's talk a bit, so you mentioned this character in the beginning, Bing Bong. He is an interesting kind of character, like,
yeah.
In the very beginning, like, when we're introduced to the character, he seems kind of, like, shady in a way, like, he's sneaking around, like, and it's an interesting thing, because, like, Pixar, like, many people probably assume at this point, like, the character's super nice, he's super, like, quirky, but there's also, like, a weird, like, shadiness to it, like, people might have thought, like, maybe he's the villain of this movie, which, it turns out, no, he's actually just a fun-loving imaginary friend, and as you said, that sacrifice kind of proves he's, like, goofy and stuff, but there's also, like, a genuine, like, reflection, like, this character represents Riley's childhood, and just having him, like, essentially gone from existence is just kind of such a, like, a sad moment. Yeah.
But I mean, if you generally really think about this, to, like, all children, everyone goes through, like, a similar moment, and the thing is that they won't even realise it. They will just keep going. Like, they're not going to be affected. But what I like with how they dealt with Bing Bong was he was such an important character, and he's kind of been shoved into the back waters of memory for Riley. So you can presume that she could probably recall Bing Bong at some point, but then to sacrifice himself to get joy and keep Riley going and bring her back and get all of the core emotions back in place where they needed to be, or core memories back in when they needed to be, he sacrifices himself. He lets Riley let go of her innocence, her childhood, so that she can be sad and at least experience and embrace that sadness. But then that's kind of joined with the joy, because right at the end, you see like Sadness operating the controls, and another thing that I liked about it was that the mum's controls were led by her version of Sadness. Sadness was the main character in the mum's mind. I thought that was really interesting. There's a whole nother level of depth that you could go into that, and maybe at some point Pixar will. I hope not, but
you never know. An Inside Out too.
Yeah, but we get Joy up there, and she's off the rocket, and she looks down, and it's happy music going over the top. It's that song. It's the song that reminds Riley that when she was happy, she was playing with Bing Bong. And then he dies, and it's so sad. I was literally crying at this point because there was happy music going over a sad moment, and that was. I was like, I can't even put it into words how mind-blowing that kind of was for me, and I love it when studios do that to me, when I can't put what I'm thinking down into words. I've got to like sit back and kind of process it and something to think about. I love that about it. I love that. I love the whole Bing Bong moment. I thought it was, because he was a funny character to begin with. He really was. And I kind of guessed where it was going. I kind of guessed that he wasn't going to live on, because who has an imaginary friend when they're 12, you know?
Still, I think, yeah,
So,
still, even with that, like, Pixar has a history of, like, just taking your heart and then just grinding it up into little pieces and making you just, like, ooze all the, like, it's manipulative, but it's, like, the right kind of, like, manipulation, because it goes with a good story, and it has impact. It's not, like, it's not forced in any way.
So, I mean, those are like kind of what I liked about it. But I know you said before we started recording that maybe you changed your mind since you. So, do you want to explain what that was about?
It's just like I like the movie. I don't know, like it could be just like that. I've had like I saw it in the morning and maybe I was kind of groggy, but for some reason when I watched it this time. And I don't know, I just, like, had less of a... Like, when I first watched it, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing, this is great, this is so spectacular. But when I watched it, like, a second time, or, like, this viewing, I kind of just had less of that. But I still... I don't know, like, I'm not even sure whether it's just me, like, having, like, you know, a bad watching experience, or, like, me kind of getting less into the film. But I still... I'm not even sure myself, but I still think, even if maybe my opinion has lessened on the film, I still think this is an incredible film. Like, I can't deny everything about this film is just amazing. And I don't know. It's kind of like, this is kind of hard to explain. Like, sometimes, you know, some people have like if you watch the movie some certain times at certain times of day, you kind of don't have as much of a reaction towards it.
Yeah, I get what you mean. You lose the wonder the second time round. When you watch something the second time round, you kind of lose the wonder and the awe that you experienced the first time. Now, I kind of knew where the story was heading. Like, especially with Riley wanting to run away. I knew that Joy would get back to the command center in time.
Well, obviously, yeah.
Like, I knew she'd get the core memories back into place, and I pretty much knew that Sadness was going to have a bigger part to play, because all the way through it, Joy keeps knocking down Sadness, keeps saying, you just stand there, like, don't touch this, well, I'll sort this, we need to be happy, you stay there, just don't touch anything. And actually, really, like, the main hero in this is Sadness, because Sadness is the one that kind of makes Riley... she makes her sad, but she needs to be sad at that point. She needs to be sad because without that sadness, without feeling a little bit lost, she's gonna lose parts of herself.
Yeah,
and that's kind of what happened. I think that there's a deeper story to be told with it. Like, before even the credits start, it's obvious. It's obvious that Joy has had the reign of the control over the childhood. Riley's not really been sad that often. And she even says that. Thanks to me, like, she's been pretty happy. She's had a pretty good, she's most of the time she's been happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good thing. But that can also cause negative effects, because then when something big does, like, big change happens, you can get to a place where you just don't know how to cope, and happiness can't get you out of all the situations, but sadness kind of can.
I do agree with you. As I said, that's a very like important message that you don't really see that much in children's entertainment, but that is like a lesson that children, maybe like older children, should kind of understand. Is like, because obviously at that time it's very hard to cope with your emotions, like during that kind of like before puberty kind of stage of your life, and like especially with like big changes. Like, by the way, I love that joke at the end, like the puberty.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
puberty.
Yeah, that's not gonna be anything. That's not gonna be anything. But anyway.
Well, I actually think that if they did do a sequel to this, which they probably will, because I think Inside Out was very successful, it got an Oscar, it's probably going to be about the puberty side, and I think that's probably the right way to go about it. Yeah, I could see that joy is just like thrown to one side, anger's just taken over, or something like that, and it's all about trying to get that balance back over the next couple of years. That sort of thing. I'd like to see that story, but I don't want them to run the Inside Out idea into the ground. So
I do kind of just going more into like aspects that I really love about the film is, like, as we kind of explained, there is not a villain in this film. There's not like, I like when Pixar does like films that don't have like a obvious like character antagonist, like Finding Nemo for instance, where it's more like about like kind of like the journey or like a personal like antagonist rather than like a physical antagonist. And for this film, the antagonist kind of is just like Riley's emotions dealing with like a hard situation. Like that's the main conflict of the film. No, there's not a villain in the piece. Every character kind of makes mistakes, and that kind of affects how Riley's reacting to it, especially all the way at the end where she's pretty much almost like full on like dead inside because of like the mistakes that everyone's made around her. Everyone has some hand in like screwing up in this intense situation, but like it's still, you still feel for all the characters, and you still kind of hope that like Riley like gets that inch of like humanity in her before she's like just like, you know. And I think and I think an interesting thing is like this film kind of parallels, like, I'm not gonna like make big accusations here, that's Womble's job, but this film kind of has a very parallel aspect to like depression in a way, where like someone feels like during hard situations where they don't know how to cope, and then like just they feel dead inside. And I've had situations where like friends like have had like depression, and like I've tried like consoling them, and like this film kind of gets that kind of aspect of how hard it is for certain people like dealing with depression. And you know, it's not 100% parallel, but I do think like that film gets that kind of like aspect to it. Like I don't know, it's just like it's a very relatable film. Pixar, like, they just knocked it out of the park with like how people like react to tough situations. And yeah
definitely. I mean, what I liked about this was pretty much that it felt like that there was I don't know if this actually happened, but it felt like there was like consultation with like psychologists and stuff as well.
Oh yeah, they definitely did that.
So that you can get like it feels real, so that like all the emotions are portrayed properly, and it's not like cartoonized. Even though it is an animation and it is a kid's film, it's very real. Everything that's going on in Riley's head is kind of real, and that's like one of the great things about this. And like you said, like linking it in with real life depression and stuff, teaching kids that sort of thing, you know, about mental health. That's probably one of the most important things that aren't being taught in school, because mental health's a real problem. It's a everyday problem for a lot of people. And I definitely agree that it especially Riley's condition at that time, like a 12-year-old just closes in. It is a depression. Like, she holds on to nothing. She doesn't have her core beliefs anymore. She's not her real self. She's just kind of, everything's gone bland. And I just like the way that they portrayed that. And I think I would have liked to have been in the room when Pete Docter decided to sit down with the heads of Pixar or the heads of Disney or whatever and just pitched this idea and just said, hey, listen, a kid's depressed. we're going to make a story about that. And I would just love to have been in that room, just to hear all the ideas and stuff that were just coming out, because you never get all the ideas in the film. I would have just loved to have heard that and sat down and just eat up all of that knowledge. That would have been brilliant. So
yeah. Well, as you said, like, there is kind of a Freudian, like, influence of it. Actually, the 5 main characters are actually inspired. I'm not sure by Freud, but okay, the timer's bursting my ear. Okay. Anyway, like, it's like a Freudian element to it. Like, I think they're based on the 5 like main emotions, or 6 actually, 6 main emotions. One of them didn't get in. Actually, there was gonna be 6 emotions. I forgot what that one was. Maybe surprise. But anyway, they stay up to 5, and overall, like, the world that they created has like a lot of brilliant elements to it. As I said, the world building is incredible. Like, each some of my favorite parts are like just going through and exploring, like, oh, this is how like the mind would work. Like, obviously that's not how our minds work, but like just like a creative expression of like how, oh, this is what happens. This is how like certain events happen. They put a lot of time and effort into making this film, and it clearly shows, because it's fucking brilliant.
Definitely. I mean, they've put everything on the characters, and that's something that Pixar does, or can do, incredibly well.
Yeah,
play everything on the characters.
Definitely. And that's why they're still one of the biggest like studios ever. They focus more on story.
Oh, yeah, any Pixar film that comes out, you have to go and see it. Apart from I didn't go and see this one, which I'm really regretting, because I'd gotten bored and fed up with Pixar, and then
you skipped out on
something that's amazing, and I'm just like,
yeah, you skipped out on the one film. Like,
I hate myself for missing that when it came out. I really do.
I mean, but because of that, now you're talking about it on this channel, and like,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So
anyway,
yeah. So overall, Pixar out, an incredible film, and a great film to like finish off the animation theme. Yeah. Luckily, Womble didn't hate the film. Otherwise, I would have like, imagine like you just hated the film. It's like, oh, well, this is gonna be fun. Just, yeah.
Well, one day we will have a movie on this where we disagree.
Yeah,
I think that's generally going to be interesting, because then it's going to become a debate.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that, because I think one of my next few picks, you're going to disagree on me with my opinion on it. So.
Okay, we're going to see how that goes. It's like the Star Wars fight we had like a few episodes ago.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So we're done with animation. This was definitely a fun year. I think all the films that we watched were good. They were good films. They weren't like, I wouldn't say there was a dud among any of them, and we seem to agree like. No, we got some good experiences and some good discussions out of it. So now let's
I definitely enjoyed Inside Out the best, though.
Okay.
And then I enjoyed my picks better than your picks, Roy.
Okay. yeah. Okay. I'm still kind of iffy on which one's my favorite of the bunch. I think all of them, like, except maybe Coraline, but just like lesser to the greatness of the other 3 films I've seen.
Coraline, I think I enjoyed the least as well, and I was really hoping I would enjoy that as well, because I love Leica Studios and I love stop motion, but it just didn't quite gel with me. So yeah.
Yeah, but still a good month. And speaking of high quality films, well, depending on your opinions,
there's literally a link to the next theme that was coming up now.
Yeah, but exactly.
Inside Out is an Oscar-winning film.
Oh,
and
yeah,
so
really?
With the Oscars coming up, we decided we would choose the next theme, which is... Roy, take it away.
Oscar movies. More specifically, films that have been nominated for the Best Picture title. Yeah. So not necessarily winners of it, but just films that have been nominated for Best Picture of any of the millions of years that the Oscars have been running. So that gives us a wide variety of choices. We can go with like any film from any genre, technically, as long as they were nominated for Best Picture by the Oscars. And yeah, I as we said, like in the beginning, I picked the first animation film, and I am going to be picking the first Oscar film. Many people have differing opinions about the Oscars. A lot of people hate the whole traditional Oscar drama movie, boring biopic or drama piece or whatever. So for this one, we're not gonna pick that film at all. Not at all. In fact, we're gonna pick a film that not many people probably expected to be nominated for Best Picture. It's just like it was one of the biggest films of that specific year, and that's saying something because a Star Wars movie was released that same year, and it still managed to get super hype. It is just action blockbuster. Like, everyone seems to love this movie, and I haven't seen it yet. And I'm pretty sure Womble has seen it and loved it, and he's speaking praise about it before. And that movie we're going to be watching is Mad Max Fury Road.
Yes! That was actually one of my favorite. That was one of my favorite films of that year. In fact, it was my favorite film of that year when it came out.
Yeah, so it's not your traditional Oscar movie, but it was nominated for Best Picture. So I felt
I'm looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to watching this.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, and I want to see it because again, everyone was super hyped for it. I think everyone who's seen it loved it, and I don't want to be that guy who still hasn't seen it yet. So this is my this is my chance and your chance to check out Mad Max Fury Road.
So you're doing something that I did in the last pick. Is pick a film that you haven't seen that embarrasses you that you haven't seen it because it was such a... Wait, was Inside Out and Mad Max Fury Road the same year, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the same year. That's a funny coincidence.
So even a bigger link than what I thought. That was completely unintentional.
Yeah, no. I was like, oh, it's the same year. But still, like, I was thinking about doing Mad Max when we were thinking of Oscar movies. So yeah, now's your chance to check out the film before we talk about it, and we're going to see what happens. Maybe, I mean, yeah, I can't wait to see Mad Max, just to see what it's like. So, yeah.
Have you seen the other three?
No. This is
okay.
I know this is
just... I don't think you need to.
No, I've heard you don't really need to. I think it's like more... It's like sort of a reboot. It's not a technical reboot, but it's...
No. It's still in the same universe. It's still the same. It's like James Bond.
Yeah, I know.
Look at it as James Bond.
Yeah. So... Anyway, that's it for today's movie Mumbles. Anything else before we close this off?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Adios muchachos. Not adios muchos. God damn.